Alrighty. Hey everybody, this is Lewis Price along with Glenn Bordwell and James Lutz, and this is the Archery Roundtable. This is episode 4. We're over that hump of the 3 episodes, so we are now doing pretty well in the podcast world, I could say.
We made it.
Yeah, we made it. So I think today we all have come to conclusion that we want to talk about some more tuning processes and then also our shot process. So we're going to get started with talking about the different tunes that are out there. I maybe have not written all of them down, but I feel like I've written some of the most talked about ones. I know you guys, I went over the list with you, so we're just going to do a yay and nay to start, and then we'll go into more detail on some of these. So first one up is cam timing.
Yay.
Yay, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. For sure. That is, I feel like, important on multiple levels, depending on what system you're running. So we can definitely go more into that. Let me just put a little check mark there. How about paper tuning?
For me, yay. For me, definitely yay.
Yeah.
It's a good start.
Yep.
I would say yay. I think there's different ways you can use the paper tuning, because there's other ways you could also tune the bow that if you do that first and check your paper tune, you can just kind of see if it's really far out of whack or if it's okay. You know, and some people don't even look at that because they don't care. But I think it's a yay as well. And then this kind of goes with a bunch of different tuning, but yoke tuning and shimming.
Yay for me.
Never done anything with yokes.
Not yokes, but shimming.
Are you talking about like shimming cams?
Yeah, shimming cams.
Okay. Is the new system considered shimming?
Yes.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Then yes.
I mean,
yay.
Yep.
So yay for me.
They made it simple by doing it that way. So, okay. So far we're 3 for 3 on yays. How about walk back tuning?
I usually don't do that much.
I'm going to say yay if I'm going to build a bow for field or redding.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I think yay for me in the same scenarios that you just said, Jimmy, because if you're indoor, I feel like you can do other things to make your left and rights good for 20 yards, but you don't have to, because you're not worrying about 100 yards. So we'll put a check mark there. We'll talk about that a little bit more. Bear shaft tuning.
I don't do it very much, but I will check every once in a while.
Okay. So do you worry about that to be like a big process of your tuning? So would you say nay?
I just check it to make sure it's not way off, but yeah, I don't worry about it.
You don't worry about it, so you're probably more of a nay.
Yeah.
What about you, Jimmy?
I was a hard nay a week ago, and now I'm a maybe.
Yeah.
I'm on the fence. I still want to.
I know you
do
were
more
doing it
testing
this week a little bit to try it, or I think it was this week.
Yeah.
So we'll see if it works, I guess, right?
I'm edging more towards yay.
Okay. Yeah, I honestly, the only time I've really checked it, I think, was for indoor. I don't know if I've really checked it at 50 meters. I know some guys have that we shoot with, so maybe it is important. But yeah, I don't know. I tested, since you tested yours on Monday, I think it was, I went and tested mine, and now I feel like my bear shaft has changed a little bit, and all I really have changed on the bow since before Lancaster, because this is a new bow after Rumble, that it did impact more right than the other one at the other time. And all I did was move my bottom bar up to the top hole, where my front stabilizer is mounted. So I don't know if that just changed my hand torque, because I also tried the other day, and we can go more into this maybe. I'll stop there. We can go more into that with bear shaft tuning. So I'm just going to put a check mark so we can talk about it and see what our real thoughts are. And then the next one would be creep tuning.
Never done it.
Me either. But, so let's go into this real quick. Just because I don't do it for sure. I did test it on, what was it? It was the SVX cam, so a hybrid cam. So like I feel like with creep tuning you can take advantage of that with that type of system, because because sometimes it doesn't change your holding as bad, or I guess as good too if you change your timing. But like with a hybrid system, they're kind of made to hit just a tad ahead from top to bottom. Usually, it's sometimes like a 1/16, an eighth of an inch. Like it's not much, so you can change that. It changes the feel. But like on a 2-cam, which I would say not 100% of the bows are now 2-cams for
Just
tournament
about.
world.
Yep.
Right? Maybe PSC is a hybrid system sometimes, or is it now only a 2-cam? That's the only one I could think of that might still have.
I don't know.
I
Is it
think
just
it's
2-cam?
now. Yep.
So with being a 2-cam, I don't know if you guys think the same way. If my timing is not correct, which that's how you do your creeping, is you're changing that timing to see if it'll impact the same. It messes my hold up
Yep.
dramatically. Dramatically. I don't know about you, Jimmy. What do you think?
Is that the only way to do creep tuning? Is just adjusting timing?
That's what I've always learned or was taught, is you change the timing so when you're creeping and then pulling really hard, they will impact the same point. And
So
I tested
what
that
kind
long
of change do you do with your timing? Like, do you
just
make
change, like if you need to advance the top or advance the bottom or take whatever, by changing the top to the bottom, it will change how it impacts.
Okay, here's a question. I know Bodie on the Matthews likes to shoot bottom hitting first, which I feel like you don't really hear too much. Does that mean his creep tune is going to be messed up, or
Or it could be better. I mean, maybe if he's doing that for creep tuning,
he's doing it for the hold?
Yeah. So, but it also could affect how it impacts if you're creeping or not. But with the 2-cam, I think it is a bigger impact on how you're holding. So some people, I believe Paige as well, messes with her timing on her 2-cam to hold better, because it can pull you up or down depending on what one's advanced or not. So that's the only thing. I don't know. I feel like a lot of us archers worry more about the hold than the creeping, because hopefully we're going to be consistent enough where we're not going to be, let's say, a 1/4 inch off of our normal hold, like on the back end, right? We're trying to be, well, we're not trying to, you have to be that consistent. You can't, I know it's a worst case scenario, but I feel like I'd rather prepare for the perfect shot than prepare for the worst case scenario, because I'm always going to be thinking bad thoughts.
Yeah. The only person I really know who's ever done it a lot was Nathan Brooks. He told me he used to do it quite a bit because he's done it on rounds and still hit 12s creeping on it, and it was always impressed me a little bit. It's like, how the heck did you even hit the target creep? And he said, I creep tune. It's like,
Was that back in the PSE days?
No, with his elite even too. Yep.
Wow, that's always been a 2-cam for
With an elite?
Yeah, he did.
Has that always been a 2-cam with their tournament bows?
Yep.
Or did they have a hybrid?
It's always been a binary. Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, that's weird. I mean,
Didn't
I guess
elite
if
do limb stops for a lot though?
Yeah.
Like, can you still creep tune with limb stops?
yeah,
Yep.
because you just change your timing and then you can change your limb stop to hit. Actually, that actually would make it maybe easier, because if you change your timing, you can still take those limb stops and make them hit at the
Advanced
same
one,
time,
yeah.
but your cam timing is still off.
Yeah.
So you're at least feeling the same by hitting those limb stops, but your timing will spit the arrow out differently. I wonder if that actually would affect it.
He
in
did
a
it with
good
the
way.
victories a lot, like the victory 37,
Okay.
39. He did it a lot with those.
That was
and he
a
was hitting
Which were
good
always
holding
limb
bow.
stop, right?
Yep. He hit
Yeah.
behind the pin a lot doing it too. It always
Yeah.
blew me away. It's
Right.
like, how the heck did you hit the target?
I feel like the creep tuning is definitely, some of the older guys that have been doing it a long time messed around with that more, especially 10, 15 years ago when bows were just different
Yep.
in their cams and everything. So I think that maybe helped. Maybe because I feel like a lot of bows now are really rock solid on the back. You don't really have a spongy bow, and maybe 10, 15 years ago you had some bows that were still spongy. So I think maybe that was a reason.
Probably strings have come a long ways too. String material's been a lot better too, so you're not getting stretchness as much, and that's helping a lot for
Yeah,
bows
that's probably
too.
true.
Yep.
I'm gonna try it when I shoot later today to creep tune,
Well, if
just to
your
see what
bow's
it does.
shooting well, Jimmy, you should try it on a different bow.
Louis, it can always be better,
Yeah, but it could always get worse too.
so I'll just put it right back.
All right. So creep tuning, I'm going to put a nay. And we just went over that, obviously. So, and then torque tuning was the next one.
Huge yay.
Yeah, for sure. And then knock tuning?
I've done it with a
No.
hamski. I actually don't mind it at times with a hamski. I could check each arrow kind of deal, and I spin each one and just paper tune each one. I found it can get each arrow to hit the same. Yep.
All right. Yeah, I have done it, and I have not done it at the same time. So to me, like, obviously distance always magnifies issues, and I think I've done it maybe once for my skinny arrows, doing redding and doing the FIDA and stuff, but I've also haven't done it and still have had success, I feel like. So I don't know how much it matters, honestly.
Okay, knock tuning, is that just checking, like shooting every arrow through paper?
Yeah, that's what I would
rotating
say.
your knob
spinning.
and stuff. Yep.
Yeah, rotating it.
See, I don't see how you can do that consistent, because I don't put much torque on my bow at all, so it's really hard for me to duplicate paper tears.
Okay.
Like if I purposely put a ton of torque like Matthias, I could get the same hole every time through paper, but because I don't torque it at all, I mean they literally would have to be 110% the exact same shot for me to duplicate a paper tear.
Yeah, and I think knock tuning can help maybe make it more consistent. So I've seen guys do it, and honestly, I've learned more of this from Tim watching his videos over the years and talking with him than probably anybody, because he's very vocal about what he does. And so with him, he's done a study in his own way of doing it with a bare shaft through paper, which I did a long time ago. That's the only way I've done it. And then he's also done it with fletches as well, because it does change the dynamic spine and how it's going to be flexing because of the weight added on the back. So I think if you're going to do it, doing it both ways would be beneficial than just doing it the one way, because you could at least see what it's reacting bare shaft, and then you could always fine tune it. And some people can fine tune it in more ways if they're doing a 4-fletch than a 3-fletch, because you'd have an extra option if you did isn't the 4-fletch, that would be even all the way around.
Yeah,
correct?
You could do 2 different 4-fletches, but that's why I preferred the 4-fletch.
Yeah,
doing
because then you have more options to knock tune as well.
Yeah.
And if you're using a drop away with it, you don't really have to worry about the clearance issue as much as if you had. Is that the 120 where they're close together on the side?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Okay.
I've heard of people doing that for redding before, for the 100-yarder, to get them closer to get more clearance for the top.
That makes sense.
Yep.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yep.
But that way you'd only have 2 options to turn your knock.
Right.
If you were going to knock tune. So like if you knock tune maybe before you fletched them and then did it, then you would maybe have it better fine tuned than if you're only having the 2 options. I don't know. I'm going to put no check mark there because we don't really do it. How about tiller tuning?
Never done it.
Yeah, I've tried it.
That sounds like an old both type thing.
Yeah, it is, because back in the day you always checked your tiller because machining wasn't as precise as it is now. So they always checked it to make sure that they were equal, so you had equal pressures when you're drawing and holding. Now I feel like tiller is almost similar to your cam timing, where if you change that, it can change your hold, and I don't know. I feel like everything is so squared up now, you don't have to worry about that. So I definitely say nay to that. How about group tuning?
Long distance stuff, yes.
I usually don't mess with it at all myself.
No?
No.
Okay. I think it's a yay for me, because the other stuff that we do, like let's say before you even group tune, to like get everything lined up the way you want it or the way you think you want it, there might be still extra room to make it better, and I think that's what group tuning can do. I'm going to put a check mark so we can just talk about that a little bit. And then the last one I had on here is powder test.
I know
it's not a tuning, but it's a clearance thing.
I do that mainly just for if I'm having some groups that aren't tightening up, I always check it just to make sure I'm not getting any clearance issues. Okay. If I see I'm not having great tight groups, it's usually because of contact.
All right. Jimmy?
I did it when I first started shooting just because I saw other people do it, but I don't do it anymore.
Yeah, I feel like I don't think I've actually... the only time I've powder tested was I put it on the bottom of my arrow to see where the blade is riding, because I'm using a blade. But other than that, I haven't done it in a long time, and one reason I don't worry about it, even though I use a blade, which I guess I should worry about it because I know there's a bunch of Hamsky guys that powder test all the time just to make sure they're not making any contact, even on the riser on the shelf. Some people, if their center shot is off, they'll check that, which I guess is not a bad move to check that, just in case you are having flyers every once in a
But
while.
why would their center shot be that far off?
Well,
Where that would be necessary.
everybody's hand is different.
Yep.
For instance, Mikey and Matthias, and even I mean, I'm not as far outside as them, but because their hand torque is so much different, they have to move their rest further left as a right-handed shooter to get it to tune the way they want it and to get it to impact the way they want it. So like Mikey, for instance, at Lancaster, I asked why he's using a different fletch because he's using a feather, and he's used feathers in the past, like honestly a good amount of time, and it's always on his 27. So I asked him why, and he said he'll make contact with his riser if he doesn't, because he needs to move his arrow rest
shooting shoot throughs, that makes sense.
A lot of it.
But other people,
I'm thinking of the inside.
yeah, but other people with a different hand, the opposite hand of Mikey and Maddie, because they're torquing, torquing on the outside of the bow. If more people torque on the inside, or I know we have this in our notes, like a proper arrow spine. If you're having an issue with your arrow spine and you had to move it in, that could also be a reason.
Right. A lot of it.
I guess I'm just stubborn. If you have a center shot that's running inside, it's wrong no matter what.
Yeah, maybe.
Fix your grip, because that's just
But
not
maybe
right.
also your bow is maxed out with its tuning capabilities. It depends on the bow, right? I mean, Matthews has a good bit. Hoyt now has a good bit of room. I know on their tournament bow, it's still the shims. Hopefully they'll incorporate a new system on the next model, which I don't know when will be, but hopefully they'll do that. And then also like Bowtech has their their cam movement, so like there's a lot of room there. But let's say back, if you have an older bow, like a Victory, for instance, there's not much
Victory,
movement.
you always, no matter what, needed to shove your center shot out.
Well, I've never shot it, but I'm just saying because there's less movement in those shims, because they had an 1/8 inch shim on either side, so you couldn't really do much. You had to move your arrow rest. So with bows like that, I could see having an issue either way.
Right. The biggest issue I think comes where your sidebar is. Like Mikey runs this so far out, so he's physically having to put torque on the bow to hold it there.
Yeah.
So that's where you're gonna get a lot of that, Jimmy. Is just where your sidebar is at on the bow.
But to be inside, you would have to have your sidebar on the opposite side way far out. You know what I'm saying?
I know of some people
Chris
that have done
beat
that.
it, but do it like way more.
Well, even Paige has done it on the opposite side a little bit until she went
Paige,
double.
yeah. Paige and Tim, awesome people, great shooters. Never taken advice from them.
I don't know, Tim. Both of them, I think you could take a lot of advice from. Really.
Yeah.
Because
If I had a 38-inch draw length, me and Tim would be best friends.
right. He's the one that tests the most out of probably anybody that I know, or at least he's the one that's more vocal about it.
Right.
I know Jesse back in the day did a lot of tuning stuff and tested. I think probably Rio and Dave and even Greg. Like they all kind of.
They did all the testing for us. We don't need to.
Yeah. Well, there's still some stuff that you could maybe improve on. But yeah, so I would say powder test is somewhat important if you think you're having an issue.
If there's a contact issue, it's probably the best thing you can do.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
We've
get
had
to the bottom
do
of it.
with some hunting bows at the shop. Just when guys are running a really, really heavy arrow, it seems like you can get some contact.
Whisker biscuit.
Yeah. Put it on the arrow. It'd be fine.
I used to put lipstick on my blade.
Yeah.
That way it would show me what vein or whatever I'm getting contact on.
Yep.
Yeah.
I like that just because it was cleaner.
I think
you didn't have a white bow then.
Yeah, the powder test could also, if you're running a 27 and you're running a very tall vane, that could also, like, just to be safe, maybe you're not even having issues, but just to be safe, you're powder testing just to make sure. Because small arrows, you should never have an issue.
Put
You should
lipstick
never be
on
close enough to the
on
shelf.
the outside of your veins.
Huh?
Put lipstick on the outside of your veins.
Yeah,
It'll show where it's in.
Well, some guys will just spray their shelf with the foot spray or the powder.
Every guy's got lipstick with them. Just do it.
Yeah. 2026.
I don't think we can say guys.
Oh, that's okay. All right. So that's all the ones I had. Any other tuning stuff that you guys can think of that might be used?
I do wind tuning, but I'm never going to tell anybody what that is.
Yeah. We can go in that another time on our fantasy island.
Yeah. Me and my tinfoil hat.
All right. So what?
Nothing. Don't worry about it.
All right. So the ones that we can talk about cam timing. I know we've kind of hit on that with some of the
I
other
think
stuff
we can be
just
quick
talked
with
about.
it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm pretty sure it depends on just how you want to aim. If it aims better one way, because the bows are machines. They're designed to do one thing. So if it works for you with a different cam timing than others, then do it. I think two cams are more critical though for me, having a more perfect timing, because I'll move up and down like crazy if it's not.
Right.
And I noticed that coming from setting up the new bow before Lancaster. I shot a bunch with the new strings on it, and just I was moving loop and moving everything around, so I never really checked the timing, and I was moving all over, and then I checked it, and it was off a decent amount because I just didn't pay attention. Once I did that, it felt completely different. The back wall felt more rock solid, and then my aiming slowed down tremendously. So I think it's biggest thing is just the aiming portion.
Well, Lancaster for me, I put different mods on and played with some stuff the practice day. And I didn't really realize it in qualifying because there's no pressure, nothing like that. But in the matches, I realized my timing is not on right now. And I had a couple high misses, and I rarely miss high. But I'm positive it's because of the timing. And when I got home, I checked it. My timing was off for sure. So,
Gotcha. Yeah. What about you, Glenn? You think?
Yeah, definitely need my timing on, especially with the binary or the hybrid cams. Always make sure it's the same. There's cool tools now to do timing wise. If you're getting it really close, you need to make it like just a little bit of adjustment. Conquest has some stuff you can use to put the cables to really micro adjust your tune. Luckily for me with Elite, we got the new Elite splitter, so our yoke system has micro adjustment tuning for our cam, so that's pretty sweet. So I can literally move it microscopic enough to make it exactly how I want. But for all the
I
other,
just ordered.
what's that, Lou?
I just ordered 4 of those in-time systems from Conquest because you always lose them. Once you take them out, you'll never find
For
them again.
guys that
they're very
need to
small.
micro tune their timing, definitely get those. If you,
Especially if you because there's some strings that come really twisted up. So taking putting a half twist or a twist in can just be too much. So those are definitely great, and especially with the bow companies that come out with the yoke system like Elite. I think Darton has one, and maybe Bowtech doesn't have it on a yoke system, but I think they have it on the cam where you can micro
you
tune
can
a little
basically
bit.
tighten up the cable on the cam, basically what it's doing.
So like that's very. I mean, there's more theoretically that you could say go wrong because it's more moving parts, but if it's solid and they've tested it, hopefully it is more beneficial than detrimental.
Right.
So, all right,
I
that
know
was quick.
Matthews, if you do a half twist on a cable, it's a lot.
They're usually one of the bows that are usually twisted up quite a bit, so that's where those Conquest timing kits are big.
And some people, once they get their strings twisted up and they have a really good draw length, those micro adjustments don't make a huge movement. Like if you did put a twist and then had to put another twist in the other cable, now you're changing more than you want. So having those little pieces can just be a lot easier to mess with. All right, paper tuning. I know we all kind of said yes to that.
It's a start.
Yeah,
Get your bow set up,
That's
and then shoot it through paper. Get it close. That way you can do all the other tuning you need to do.
Yep. With me with a Hamsky, I just try to get as perfect as I can through paper kind of deal, and then check it over after I get a bunch of shots through. And just for me, it seems like it's the most accurate way I've noticed for me with a Hamsky rest.
Yeah, I think with a Hamsky too, you can make your paper tear really good.
Yeah.
But because you're not worrying about any contact.
Yep.
I think sometimes with blades, there's a lot of guys that like to have a little knock high tear just so they're clearing more, or they have just a better chance of clearing those veins. Especially, I mean, I think sometimes contact isn't a huge thing. Just depends on how stiff your veins are.
Yeah.
A stiffer vein will definitely deflect more than the softer veins. I mean,
Depends on weight of the arrow and everything too.
Yeah, so I think it's a little bit different process. Like for me, setting up a bow, I always tie my knock first, or at least put my loop where I want it and see how it shoots. But I'll always start with a really knock high tear. So like I'll move my rest down where I look at it at rest and I'm like, holy cow, that's knock high. I like to start there because hopefully you're not going to have any clearance issues by doing that, right? And then I'll slowly move it up and make it the tear I want.
Yep.
And then go on the range and start messing with other things. So that's what I like to do, because you take away the chance of contact with a Hamsky. You don't have that chance really. So if you started with a knock low on accident because you took a rest off a different bow, it's going to show more than not.
Sorry about that, guys. Got a train coming through.
Yeah, turn the train off then. It's a toy train. This might be a hot take, but I think if you have a bullet hole with a blade rest, you're doing something wrong. I don't think you should be tuning your bow to have a bullet hole with a blade rest.
Yeah, I think because of clearance, honestly, I think that's more true than not. And also with the bullet hole, I think I said this to you or somebody recently, you can also have a false tear at times, especially if you don't mess through paper like at a little different distances. So if you're always staying at the same distance and you fix it, you can be, that arrow could be coming up through the paper and be going through straight, but then after it's going to be fishtailing still. So I think that's why it's important to always start with a knock high tear and then move it up to where you're comfortable, and then where you can see impact and how it's consistent on your target where you're shooting at, whatever distance that is. So, and then also going into another tuning is like, for instance, group tuning or even bear shaft tuning. Like you start with I feel like we start with the paper a lot of times. Most people do, I would say. I'm not 100% on that, but I would say most people do. And then we go into a bear shaft tune to see how that is, or maybe just group tuning in general.
Right.
So,
do you guys tape your arrow when you're doing a bear shaft? Like put tape on it to correspond for the weight of the vanes? No?
I don't. I mean, it does make sense dynamically to have the weight there.
Yep.
But I don't know. I've always just done it without. I guess I have done it maybe once before with it on there. But at the same time, part of me wonders if it makes a difference. Like, let's say the tape isn't perfectly put on there. Like your vanes should be perfectly placed in those spots where when it's
equally
spinning
laid out kind of at that point.
It's equal. Yep. But if your tape's not equal, that's going to throw off your whole arrow.
Right.
What do you think, Jimmy, on that take?
Like every time, other than last week, every time that I've bear shafted in the past, I wouldn't have a bear shaft, so I would just cut the vanes off but leave the bases. Which wasn't an issue because my bear shaft was so bad, the arrow usually broke, so I didn't have to worry about shooting it again. Yeah. But are we getting deep into bear shaft now?
Yeah, I think because that's like one of the next steps after paper tuning that most guys I would say do. So
I saw some comments on one or a couple of our reels about bear shaft tuning, and I've always kind of been against it because I've had good setups that wouldn't even hit the foam, wouldn't even hit the bail with a bear shaft. So I think it was Monday. I called Louie and I'm like, let's do it. Help me out here. What do I need to do? I actually have a question for you, Louie. Why would I want my bear shot? So, okay, just to start, I was aiming at a Vegas target, and my first initial bear shot hit off the paper, low left. So all I did to fix it was obviously my rest height to bring it up, but my limb shift on my Matthews, it doesn't take much to get it to move over. So I got it. Louie, you told me to put it like at 20 yards, like basically half shaft, low left 10 line.
Yeah.
Can you explain that and why I wouldn't want it right where my flex shaft is?
I don't know if there's, I just do some reading once in a while. And so Easton came out with a tuning like guidebook years ago. Like this thing is super old. I think on the cover page it says it sold for like $2 or maybe even less than that. Like it was a long time ago they did all this testing, and it was still done with releases. So I guess it wasn't like super long ago where it was only recurves and fingers, or just even fingers in compound. They do have stuff in there for the release as well. So in there it says that sometimes a low left impact of your bear shaft can be a pretty dang good tune. And that's just what they've researched. And part of it, and I've heard this from other guys too, with just, they always do it with their paper tune. They say, oh, I always have a knock high left or knock high tear through paper to give the arrow some direction, because they believe that the stability comes from direction instead of having something coming out perfect and spinning. If it comes off because of wind, there's no direction, so it gets pushed easier. That's the theory behind it. So I think with that direction, if there is any wind, it's still kind of tracking in a direction where it should not come off its path as easily. That's how I have taken it from the guys that I've talked to and the things I've read and seen. So I think that's why, because usually, like with the bear shaft, the left and right comes from a stiff arrow or a weak arrow. The up and down is knock height. So like, for instance, when we were FaceTiming and talking about, you showed me where your arrow impact. The one time it impacted high of your fletched, which to me, like I said about the paper tear, that's to me almost like a false perfect paper tear. Like if it showed up really nice through paper, but then impacts high, that still means that your bear shaft is saying that you are knock low because your arrow is impacting high. So that's where bear shaft maybe can be beneficial to fine tune those things and make sure, because I think it'll show sometimes that bear shaft can show that maybe your fletches are being impacted by contact sometimes as well, because your bear shaft should have no contact ever, obviously. And that's why I think having no tape is maybe a little bit more important than having the weight there. Because also, like I was going to say earlier and stop myself, I tested the torque tune with a bear shaft and I impacted way different than where my bear shaft is. So the first time I hit, and actually I was really surprised, I hit a 9, just a 9, like mid shaft or middle 9 low with my bear shaft compared to my fletched. And then I torqued my bow, and actually this was weird. Either way I torqued the bow, my bear shaft always went to the right. Like, and I mean, like really far to the right. I think I hit the edge of the paper aiming at the top dot one time, and I changed my sight and stuff to see if it would change, and it did a little bit, but not where it did not bring it back to my fletch, that's for sure, or even where my bear shaft impacted without trying to torque it. So that's why I think with the vanes, when you take them off, if you put the tape on, if it's not centered, it's going to throw that tail left and right because it's not going to spin the way it should. I understand that you're taking the weight away, so you're changing dynamic, but maybe that's why, this is just a thought that popped up in my head, literally. Maybe that's why Easton said in that handbook to impact low left, because low is, the reason they go low, in my thoughts, is to make sure you're not making contact, so you're having that good clearance. Yep. And then also the left, because that reacts stiff, when you put your fletches on, it may that actually stiffens the arrow. Bad thought in my head. See? That's why you got to think things through. So it'd make it even stiffer. So I don't know why they say left. Yeah. And that's obviously for a right-handed shooter. So it's opposite for the left-handed shooter.
A high bear shaft obviously is telling you have a knock low tear.
Yeah.
Would a left bear shaft tell you have a knock right tear?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
See,
because the knock is pointed this way and it's driving the arrow to the point.
Yep.
So it's going to impact left.
In my, I don't even know, archer career, whatever, I've always been told a right tear is horrible for a right-handed archer.
I think in that book it does say that a right tear is usually from contact or misalignment too. I mean, that's the nice thing about the modern bows compared to when that came out. It could be more of a misalignment with how your cams are to the riser and to where your arrow placement is than even a spine issue sometimes. Like I feel like, for instance, Tim always says a stiff arrow is never bad. Like he'd rather always be stiff than having a weak one.
Right.
So because our bows can adjust so much now, because the platforms are so much wider. When you have wider platforms, you have more space inside the limbs, so you have more space to move your cams.
Right.
So with that, you can fix a lot of tears that you could never fix back in the day without doing something different with your arrow. I don't know. A right tear, I think any right or left tear, I would say a left tear would be better for a right-handed shooter if you're having no shoot-through riser as well, if you're worried about contact, because right tear would always go into the riser for us, and you obviously don't want that.
No.
Well, maybe when they say a hair left, because when you put your veins on, maybe that straightens that out. Maybe that weight or something would put it middle.
Yeah, but maybe. If it's going to redirect it different. But also adding more weight to the back of your arrow actually stiffens the arrow. So it should react stiffer in that way.
Okay. Wasn't I backwards from what you were thinking, though, with the stiffer and weaker arrow?
What do you mean?
Like, okay, when I hit left with the bear shaft, what does that tell you in your head?
We tried both ways when we talked, because you first went a little left on your cams and it made it worse. So then we went the other way, which makes sense because it should be a right tear that you're having if you looked at paper.
Right.
The knock is coming out. So moving it right always corrects that.
But with that arrow being left, does that tell you does that tell you it's a stiff or a weak arrow?
What they say in the book that I read is it's a stiff arrow.
That you're hitting left is a stiff
That you're
arrow.
hitting left. That's what the little booklet says, and what they've tested. So, and they give you obviously all the options you could do. You could add more point weight. You could make a longer arrow as well if you wanted to.
Right.
Which I have messed around with for the indoor setup. And this year I did cut my arrow, probably the shortest I've ever had my indoor arrow. And it's a 27-12, so it's already stiff with 225 grains up front. And the reason, you can add more weight to weaken it to help. So some people will have more to help with that. And so by changing the length of the arrow, I think sometimes that can be a detriment too, with the more that I've shot year after year. Because I think, and I noticed this year with my indoor bow compared to my outdoor bow, my torque tune is a lot different, partially because I think my arrow length is a lot different. Like on my 27, being a 30-inch arrow, it's to the front of my riser or just a little long. Yeah, right about to the front of my riser, I would say, where I'm running my X10s really like an inch shorter than that. And I always go by shaft length. So that's just how I always refer. And I could actually probably cut a little bit more off my arrow at, even at 29 to be closer to my rest. But I think when that shaft is closer to your rest, when you are torquing, it's changing the point of that arrow less by being shorter. That's how I look at it. So I don't know if that's one reason your torque tune also changes, and also why maybe your bear shaft can change, because it still goes off of your hand torque because you're shooting the bow. So and I proved that to myself by torquing it in a really crazy direction and having that arrow impact completely different. So I think that can come down to, you have to be careful that if you lengthen your arrow or shorten it, mostly lengthen, obviously, that it could be more of a detriment than just having a better spined arrow. That's what I'm trying to say with the bear shaft, because by lengthening it, theoretically, it should hit more right because you're weakening it, and that's what it's telling you. But I would rather try to tune out the stiffness by moving things, rest, shims, whatever that is, and try to make it better there first before lengthening it, because I now believe that it makes a difference having a little bit shorter arrow. And I know it's only 20 yards, but it still can make a difference when you're trying to hit the X or the inside of the X, if you want to talk about inside outs.
I don't.
Yeah. Supposedly NFA is supposed to be announcing some stuff here recently.
Woohoo.
We'll see.
Can't wait. So excited.
They mentioned the shoot-off, so I don't know if they're going to change anything or not. But yeah, so that's my theories and the way I think about the bear shaft tuning Glenn, you said you don't really mess around with it, right?
No, not a ton. I'll maybe at 20 yards, I'll just check it indoor just to make sure I'm kind of close, but it really doesn't matter as much wise.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm going to do it for FIDA.
Yeah, try it, right?
Just what I've seen at 20 yards, I feel like it might help FIDA quite a bit. So,
yeah. So now that we talked about paper tune, yoke, and shimming, then we went into the torque tuning. I mean, I guess like group tuning kind of comes up along those topics too, because I think by changing your rest and your shimming, you're also kind of making your group tuning hopefully better by doing that. Maybe, or you go the opposite way to make it shoot well too. I don't know. The group tuning, I feel like I just stand there and shoot a bunch, and I try to move my arrow rest up or down. Mostly up for me. Like I was saying, if I start with a knock high tear, I have messed around by going lower, and I feel like it opened my groups up because I already have a knock high, and I'm just making it worse. So by coming up and making it a little bit better, I have noticed better groups, horizontally, so everything's tighter that way, horizontal, and then for the vertical, I'm moving the rest left and right to try to make that better. And it's small increments. I don't know if guys have really messed around with the group tuning or not.
Not usually me with a Hamsky. I always notice for me, it's always done better shooting it through paper, getting a bullet hole.
Where do you put your center shot then? Like if you just...
I usually measure...
If you're not moving that.
No, I'm leaving it right at 13/16 usually, and then I tune the bow from either shimmy it or with the Elite. We got the the set technology, but I'll start with the shimming, kind of make sure I get as close as I can shimming, then I fine tune it with the set technology.
So you never move your rest?
No.
Okay.
No,
right.
Only time, sometimes, like I said, it's not a bad thing to start maybe with a bear shaft with it, get a pretty good bolt hole with that, and then usually if you have a bolt hole with the bear shaft, it's a bolt hole with the vanes too, through the Hamsky usually, and then I just leave it right from there. It's always seemed to be the best for me doing that. I might play with a different blade though to see if that changes any accuracy. Go into a lighter blade, go to a 10 thou versus a 12 thou blade.
Okay. All right. What about you, Jimmy? Group tuning wise.
Unlike my Redding bow, I've done it in the past. That's kind of it. I want to do it with my FIDA bow because I want to get everything I can out of FIDA bow. But I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's say we all start paper tuning. That's how we start the bow build, Yeah. And then let's say we do bear shaft tuning. Get that good. Well, that just changed the paper tear. And then we do group tuning. Well, that just changed the bear shaft and the paper tear. So what's the point of doing all of them? Is there one specifically that you should do?
I think it comes down to what your overall goal is, and what's our
To
overall
win.
goal.
To win.
Yeah, but to win, what is your overall goal?
720.
Well, yeah, exactly. Hit the spot every time. So by going through these steps, I think it helps get to a point of where you are hitting. So like there is times like if you go through your paper tears, and let's say like Glenny, he starts with a perfect paper tear, right? And then he goes out, tries bear shaft, has to do shimming or has to do arrow rest adjustments, whatever that is. And then he goes and tests it out and starts to group tune and sees, okay, maybe my verticals are not the greatest, like my vertical pattern, on the up and down, you want to shrink that. So he changes his arrow rest again, up and down. But he didn't change anything left and right because maybe his left and rights are perfect, like he never has any issues, or vice versa. But then you go back and you shoot it through paper and it shows you, okay, I have a knock high tear with a little left, let's say. But in my opinion, are you going to change that back to perfect?
No, not if it's shooting perfect. No, I'd leave it where it's at. Yep.
So the whole point is...
So what I'm getting at is it seems like group tuning, because we've kind of talked about that last. That was the last thing that you did in the tuning process. Is that the most important?
That's the final one.
Yep.
So I would say it's probably the most important, but leading up to that, I think those other things can get you in a better place to be group tuning, or to be more accurate with the group tune.
They're good starting points, kind of.
Yeah, it's just a layering effect. So as long as you're doing the steps, it can make that group tuning may be that much easier for you, or it's going to be already set and you're going to be done.
Easier makes sense.
Yeah. All these tuning features are just taking all different aspects of the arrow out of the equation and in the tune. And then your final tune is your final tune. That's why some people with bare shaft tuning, they might not actually bare shaft tune, but they'll shoot a bare shaft at a target and see where it hits and record that. So like, let's say I'm done shooting, did everything I wanted to do, changed my rest a little bit with the group tuning, and then I shoot at 50 meters, or let's just say 50 meters. Shoot at 50 meters of a perfect shot, it's right in the middle, and I'm super happy. Then I take a bare shaft, shoot it again, and I hit low left 3 inches. 3 inches right from that arrow, low left in, let's say, in the 8. And it's like, oh, crap, that's a big miss. To me, now I know where my bare shaft is hitting, so if I do have issues at a tournament, it's way easier to strip my vane off or have a bare shaft in my case, shoot it real quick at practice. If it hits low right 3 inches, then maybe I'm like, oh, something got bumped. Like, that's not where my bare shaft should be hitting. So I think it could be a great checkpoint, and some guys use it as a checkpoint for worst case scenarios, like if they had an issue with a bow that got beat up on the airplane or in the car, whatever that is. You know, you can always check it back. And because paper tuning, you could do the same thing, but how many times are you going to be able to have a paper tuning session at a tournament, especially let's say a World Cup, where you can't go down?
We did in Spain.
Yeah, but when?
Me and Curtis, I held up a piece of paper for him, and he shot through it at 50 meters.
Yeah. At 50 meters you did that? That's risky.
For
him.
The crowd.
Don't recommend
But, like,
this.
you're not going to go up to a target. You have a close target at those places. Like, at NFA, you could probably hold up, paper. Like, some of the vendors and stuff have a target to shoot, so you could go there and maybe do it. But on the practice ranges, you're really not going to be able to hold up the line to go down and paper tune, so you're not worried about missing the target, that type of thing.
Do you guys
That's how I look at it.
play with different veins for like your 3D stuff? Like, see if with certain vein groups better at 50 yards or anything, or even FIDA maybe. Do you play with veins at all?
I haven't, honestly. No. I've always used the 2-inch small vane for
FIDA wise.
FIDA, and then for 3D, I've always used the 2.5 or 2.6 vane for that.
Gotcha.
I haven't messed around too much with that.
Gotcha.
I've messed around a lot with it. And I don't shoot for a vane company. Sorry. I don't shoot for a vane company, so this past couple of years have been playing around with a ton of different vanes. Even Louis saw when we were bare shafting my bow that I have Q2 eyes on just because I'm playing around with them. Dude, I can't notice a difference in anything. The only thing I notice is some vanes are easier to fletch than others, but when I don't care about the sound for like hunting, I feel like every 50-meter vane I've tried has pretty much been the same every 3D.
You've used TAC, not even their smallest vane. You used their normal 2-inch vane for that at one point, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is big, and you shot really well with those. And then you've also shot the AEs that are a lot smaller profile. Shot well with those, obviously.
I shot fletch for FIDA just to try them out. They shot fine.
Yeah, I think a vane, its purpose is all the same. It's just the materials that are different. So if you think that a stiffer one is going to do better for you or be more durable overall, which sometimes I think the opposite. I think sometimes the softer ones can get hit because they bend and they're not going to get broken. And I think it's more important to have a really well glued vane so it sticks really well with a nice base versus having too small of a base and very brittle and pops off. So.
What about when you're doing for fletching? Do you play with any degrees differences for accuracy? Do you try like a 2 degree, 3 degree? Do you ever play with that to see if that helps for accuracy wise?
I'm always the same on mine.
Gotcha.
I don't know what degree it is, but it's just a little left helical.
Gotcha.
For every type of shooting, every arrow.
Same.
Gotcha.
Yeah, same here. I don't know what my degree technically would be because the small arrows, a 2 degree on a small arrow versus a 2 degree on a 27 is going to be a lot different.
Oh yeah.
So with a blade, for instance, you kind of want to worry about contact in that part because the those bases are closer together once you're on a small shaft like that.
Right.
So
Yeah. For me, with the last chance, I've always just ran a 2 degree left. And that's
Gotcha.
kind of for everything. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that kind of sounds like what I'm at.
Yeah.
2
Yeah.
degree. It's between 0 and 90 degrees for sure.
Yeah, there you go. Hopefully not 90. But yeah, so really overall with the tuning talk, our main goal is to hit the center every time and have the best groups, right? That's what I would say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So these
I
are
mean,
just
I don't
steps
care
to
about
get
my
there.
groups
Yeah.
as long as I hit the
No.
center. And
Yeah.
You would be way better having 6 X's versus 6 10s on a FIDA round.
scores the same.
No, it does not.
Yes, it does.
Not mentally, because I've been there this year or this past year. I think I had a couple rounds where I had 1 X or 0 X's in one round, and it's like, holy cow, I got lucky. And
Hey.
then go back and you shoot 5 X's.
Yeah.
So
there were a couple USATs back when Cappers was like 2 years ago, maybe when Cappers was doing them pretty hard, where we would try to shoot a no X60 during qualifying.
no,
Like
good.
Cappers ended up doing it, but it was like the 4th USAT. Like it took us so long
Yeah.
because you would either hit a 9 or just luckily hit an X. I mean, I don't want to say that we were trying to miss X's, but if you're grouping just above the X, we weren't changing it, you know?
Yeah, yeah.
I usually sight in for top of the X anyways, for FIDA. So
Because you always dip low. Is that your reasoning?
yeah,
Like
my,
you missed?
99% of my misses are going to be low.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially if you're staying consistent. And I would say for me, I don't really necessarily try to do that, but if I'm grouping well and it's just slightly off, I'll stay. And it depends on the conditions. I don't know about you, Jimmy. With conditions, I'd rather, I don't know, sometimes in the wind and aiming off, you can't really tell exactly where you're missing. So it's harder to do that sometimes, I feel like.
well, usually, let's say there's a lot of wind, whether you're bubbling or aiming off. Well, first of all, if you're bubbling, I've noticed, at least with my stuff, there could be a way around it. But if I have to bubble too much, then that'll make me hit low.
Oh, yeah. Same.
And then aiming off, I don't know if it's just a mental thing or what, but like if you need to aim right side 8 ring, typically you're going to like put your pin like kind of bottom of the 10 height. Just because you're trying to see everything, because you're trying to be so perfect when you're not aiming in the middle.
Yeah.
That like it's like aiming at a 14 in 3D. You're so focused on that one little spot that you put your pin just under it so you can see it.
So with this being said, let's go into the next part of our topics. We're only having 2 topics really this one, but with the tuning all done and your grouping is magnificent and it's perfect because that's what we try to do. With that being done, I think that increases our confidence dramatically, right? You would say the same?
Yep.
Hey, we don't have a Mountain Dew sponsorship. You should probably not put that in.
I'm trying to get one.
But
That's my lifelong dream.
Yeah, there you go.
It's only 9 o'clock
So-
at home, Jimmy.
It's his morning cup of coffee.
9:20 for you at home.
Everybody needs caffeine, brother.
So with our confidence high with our tuning, or taking all of that out of the equation, when we get to a tournament and get to, let's say, the line or the stake, depending if it's 3D or spots, let's talk about our shot process. Now that we've taken care of everything and we're in qualification, Jimmy was starting to talk, and I guess I hit on it with FIDA. Let's maybe start there and say, what's your whole shot process? From the time you grab your bow and the beeper goes off, what are you going through mentally at a FIDA event?
Okay. So for FIDA, I like to split my end in 2. So I basically try to like mentally do it like a match. Because I mean, I've done it in the past in matches, like I could shoot just 150s, but when I go out and just blank shoot arrows, like qualifying, that's when you get lazy, make mistakes. So immediately I pick up my bow. I'm like, all right, 3 arrows, let's go. Let's hammer out 3 X's, 3 10s. Knock the arrow. My shot process, I feel like, is more physical until I get into my anchor. Then everything just flicks to mental. load my arrow. I'm constantly looking at flags, looking at the wind. I only look at the flags above the targets. I don't look at the windstocks at all. I only look at my flag on my target and then the 2 targets next to me. Those are the only flags I'm looking at. Draw back, I'm still looking at these flags as I'm drawing back. I get in basically when I get into my anchor, when my peep cuts off my vision of the flags, that's when it turns into all just feel for the wind. Because, I mean, there's SoCal, the wind can be fairly consistent, but like Buckeye, I mean, that thing can go anywhere at any time. So you constantly have to be feeling the wind, getting like, there's a big issue in FIDA with hearing the wind, because you'll hear what sounds like a tornado coming, and it could be 15 seconds away, but it freaks you out, so you want to shoot as fast as you can. That's a big thing that
too much.
Right. Yeah. Just don't even feel it. You just hear it, and you might aim off expecting it to do something. But that's something that you have to get used to in FIDA. It kind of tricks you. But my process, I mean, everybody knows I'm a command shooter. I don't punch. I'm a command shooter. If it's windy, I'm definitely punching. But it's nothing too specific. I drop down. I go past the rings. I go to about like the middle of the red, and then I slowly come up as I'm slowly coming up, I'm increasing all the tension in my hand, in my arms. Every day is a little bit different. Some days I have to push a little bit harder. Some days I have to increase the tension in my backhand more. But it doesn't take me too long to figure out what I need to do to make me hold better that day. And then mentally, like the mental side of things, because FIDA is just fast paced. It's more fast paced than indoors. It's so much easier to mentally deal with it.
Well, especially at a World Cup, and we have
Right.
how long? What's the difference between USAT and World Cup in timing for 6 arrows? Isn't it a whole minute difference? 4 minutes to 3 minutes.
I think it's a whole minute. Yeah.
So we have 3 minutes to shoot 6 arrows.
Wow.
Indoor, at any 5-spot round, we have 4 minutes to shoot 5 arrows. So there's a big time difference at a World Cup event for sure.
Yeah. And typically, I mean, you still get your arrows off quick. It's just fast paced, and that's why I think I love FIDA. You can never just sit there like indoors can be so boring at times. But as far as shot process goes, there's not too much involved because I don't like to get my head that mentally into it because it's fast paced. I'm trying to put the pin in the middle and execute a good shot. Sometimes I'll talk to myself while I'm shooting. Like for some reason I have a bad habit of if I draw back and I know, okay, I need to aim right side 10, I'll just put the pin in the middle and shoot it and I'll miss left. So I find myself, I don't know, maybe I'm just a little dumb or something, but I find myself having to say, okay, like RT, that's just like right side 10. That's just, I constantly am saying RT. And I don't know, what would you call it? Like people have like a mantra or something.
Mantra?
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, a mantra. Yeah. It's not really a mantra. It's just making sure I don't aim in the middle.
Yeah.
But no, it's probably the most simplest form of archery because it's fast paced and all you're doing is putting that pin in a yellow circle and shooting.
Yeah. So after you shoot all your arrows, let's say, I know you break them up into 2 sections, like you said, so 3 arrows at a time. You're shooting 2 matches every end, essentially, so you can make those the best. Once those arrows are gone, what's in your mind after that when you're walking off? Like, let's say on a really good like a good end or a really bad end.
So a really good end, I walk off like, yeah, I'm basically Mike Schlosser right now, like whatever. No, I feel like I've shot so much FIDA that the hardest things is when you start seeing patterns. So like during a round, it's the most frustrating thing when you're like, okay, my first 2 arrows are always X's, but my 5th and 6th arrow are always like barely catching 10s, or my 6th arrow is always a 9. Like that kind of stuff is really what can break you down in FIDA, because the next time you're drawn back on your 6th arrow, that end, you're going to miss it because it's in your head. You're telling yourself that you're going to miss it. I think the way that I break the end down into 2 kind of helps with that. Because I do it for 3D also. I break my 3D rounds into 5 target increments. and my goal is to hit 4 of the 5.
I think for
And then once that's done, once that 3 arrows or 5 targets in 3D is done, you forget about it.
Right.
It's the best thing you can do. Unless you shoot 3 X's, or if you shoot 512s in 3D, then build off of it. You know, saying, all right, I'm going to keep this streak going. Let's go. But that's the hardest part when you're walking off the line, knowing, like, if I would have just let down, like I'm talking about, this is a 6 arrow, I'm going to miss it. Like, that's just, it eats you alive.
So you're trying to just critique yourself in a somewhat positive way, hopefully, to make your next end better.
Right.
Yeah. Or if you shot a really good one, you're saying maybe what the good things came out of that, or like what you did well. Maybe I don't.
Right.
Is that what you would say?
Yeah, and never look at scores online. Like you'll see a lot of people doing it.
Yeah.
It just you can only get negative things from it. If you look and I'm up 5 right now, like I'm in first by 5 points. You're not going to finish there typically, because I'll see Louis in second and he shoots a 60. I'll be like, oh yeah, okay, I'll miss one here. That's fine. I missed one. That's okay. But if I do that for 3 ends, all of a sudden
Catches
we're
up.
two. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think sometimes it can calm you down. Maybe if you look at it, let's say halfway through, and you're like, okay, I have maybe it's a lead, or I'm within 5 points. Like sometimes I can calm people down to be like, okay, just keep shooting your game and just do it, right? What I kind of here, are you all done? Is okay if I?
Yeah.
I don't want to cut you off. Or anything.
No, it's fine.
Anything else to say?
I was done, I guess.
Right. So with the scoring, I'll just hit on that real quick. The times I've shot the best at a USAT, I try to stay off my phone completely, so I can just focus right on what I'm supposed to be doing. Because in my head, I'm more worried about shooting 60s than anything. Because if you shoot a 60, nobody can catch you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Like really, unless that person's doing the same thing. But then you're still
Last year in Turkey.
Oh, really?
You could, because X's were 11, you could be caught.
Yeah.
But no, I know what you mean.
Yeah. But like, it's just nobody's going to catch you. They're only going to be at the same level as you. And then hopefully you can outlast them and shoot the most 60s. Because if you can shoot the most 60s out of any round, you're going to be the most likely the top person, unless you had a really bad round and a really bad wind, maybe, where you're shooting 8s and 7s because just crazy stuff has happened. But really, that's my mindset, I need to shoot a 60. I mean, in this game nowadays, and that's even a case for 33s or 30, what was that, 36s, or 30, what is it, 34?
34s. Yeah.
In the Lancaster, that would be the top score now each end, if you did it that way.
Well, 36 for one end, but.
All right, it's 36. So I just always try to think that, and there's sometimes I tend to look at the scores if I'm doing bad, because it's like, man, I am shooting really bad. So I'll look, and there's some times where it's like, oh, I'm not that far out. Like, maybe everybody's struggling with this wind, especially, for instance, with Arizona Cup last year. I mean, Mikey was he 700 something? Was he over 700?
I think it was like 709 or something stupid.
No, I don't think it was that.
I'm looking it up because it was insane.
Look,
it was way better than everybody
It was crazy
else.
because, I mean, that was my worst event, and I shot awful in the wind. But I think the next highest was maybe like 10 points to him. Like it was. I mean, he shot amazing compared to everybody else in that wind. But when you look at, how bad you're doing because you think the weather's really affecting you, it's still maybe affecting everybody else. So sometimes when I look at it, if I'm doing bad, it can help me or drive me to make sure I'm making better choices on my execution, or maybe letting down, or focusing just a little bit more. Right. But so
I was wrong, but
what did
he was 9 points ahead of second. He shot a 701.
Yeah, so over 700 was ridiculous for that. I mean, it was crazy wind, and so you said 692 was the closest. After that,
yeah.
Are you looking at my score?
No,
it was in like the 70s, I think, maybe even
60s.
Lower. Yeah, it was bad.
He beat you by almost 40.
I'm glad that was my drop score of the year.
Yeah.
Okay. No,
Hey.
It was a really bad start to the year. That's for sure.
You made the World Cup team, so
Yeah,
here's what you shot in Arizona that one year.
Yeah, but anyways, so I'll just go into my whole process, I guess. When I'm stepping up to the line, like Jimmy was saying, I pay attention to the flags for sure. I actually, if the wind is coming from my right, like if the flag's blowing left, I do look at more than just a couple targets, because if I hear something, I'll look further down just to see if it is affecting the targets, because there's a lot of times I think as us, as FIDA guys or archers in general, we can feel something on us and we can aim well in it, but then we aim too far off and it's not at the target, so we still miss where we were aiming at, and then we're like, oh, what the heck, like the wind was blowing this way and I still missed to the right, like, or missed to the left, whatever it is, right? So I think sometimes looking even at the socks, I wish they had more socks. I wish they had one like middle of however many targets they have, so we had one right there, because I feel like they only put them up on the ends of the fields and then in the middle of the dividing compound versus recurve. I wish they had like one more.
One sock every 10 targets, just make a little 2-foot gap.
Yeah, and I don't know if there's even a rule on how many socks you can have. Maybe that's.
I've got 2 on my feet, so I don't know.
Yeah. Hopefully those aren't blowing off your feet though. So
well, just real quick, I think we've gotten so comfortable shooting where we shoot the USATs that, like, I know in Arizona, which we're not there anymore, unfortunately, because that place is awesome, but like, I would look at the socks there way more than I would somewhere else, just because I know that they'll randomly get a dust devil come in.
Yeah.
And if you see that wind on the other side of the field flip, it's going to get really bad really quick. So I'll look at that, but I feel like we've just gotten so comfortable with where we're shooting that we know what's going to happen.
Yeah, and that's why sometimes you can get so comfortable that you don't pay attention, and then it really hurts you.
Right.
Because you think that it's just, it's a constant wind, or there's no wind on me, like the opposite of what I was just saying. There's no wind on me, but there's wind at the target. That's why I feel like you always have to look at least at the target flag to see what's going on down there, because I actually love that scenario more than anything, because I know I can aim better without the wind on me, and I can just aim off as much as I want. I'd rather aim off, like Jimmy was saying. If I aim off, I impact a lot better. If I cant my bow, because I have a little issue that I'm trying to still fix, where I always cant to the left. No matter where the wind is coming from, I always cant to the left. So if the wind is coming from the left and I'm canting into it to hopefully get it to correct, if I go too much, I miss low left every time. Like, big miss too. Like, actually this year I feel like I had a lot of small misses where it's like if I didn't, I was a 16th away from the line, and that would have changed a lot of my ends to be more confidence for me going into the next end. So I always try to aim off, and I'd rather have the wind on the target or halfway down where it's not affecting me, so I can aim better. Obviously, that doesn't always happen, so you just have to pay attention. But for me, going into my shot process, as soon as I look at the flags, I'll tend to look at them a little bit while I'm drawing, but once I get back to my draw, the end of my draw, and start anchoring, I'm just focused on the target and, like Jimmy said, feeling the wind. And you get to know, the more you do it, you get to know if there is wind on you and not the target, because you're paying attention for a long period of time to the flags, and so you can go off a feel still and be like, okay, this was going about this far, this is what I've been aiming off for that flag look that's in my head. So if the wind starts dying down on me, maybe I'll creep in a little bit further. Or if I feel it more on me, sometimes I end up aiming a little bit further because it's still pushing me and I'm moving back and forth. So I just give myself some room for error. That's how I look at it, because it's some of the wind, because if it's not a constant wind hitting you, there's no constant resistance, so you're kind of going like this at times. So I just try to focus on feeling and then pulling through the shot. And I mean, if I have to slow down my shot because a big gust came, then I try to do that. If I start seeing my shot break down by me, not being level, then I'll hopefully let down. Yep. Hopefully.
Sounds like you need to wind tune your bow.
No, I'm good. No, I want my bow to hit perfect no matter what. No, but so, and then after, I'll critique myself. After I'm done with each end, critique myself and see what I can improve on or make adjustments to my sight. Let's say I had a really good group, left side X, or, a lot of left side X10 tweeners, you know what I mean? Like on that left edge, I'll maybe give it a couple clicks, or just one click and go from there. Just depends on the situation. But so I would say that's very similar, I would say, to indoor, besides obviously the wind.
Yep.
I'm just focused on making the proper shot and talking to myself about hitting the middle and not missing the middle. For instance, I'll go real quick into this, and then I'll have Glennie talk about if you want to start 3D or whatever, we can do that. But at Lancaster, I had some holes that were not where I wanted to be, right? Like they were just catching the X on the left or right side, whatever. And so I was telling myself, okay, I want to hit the left side of that hole or the right side of that hole because that's going to put me in the X. It's not even me saying, I'm like pinpointing where I want to hit more than just saying, okay, I want to hit the middle. Like because I can visually see it in my scope still, I try to put a positive thought in my head to hit that spot because I know it's going to be there. And then when that hole, hopefully if I do hit it, then I can look at that hole again and be like, okay, that's the hole I need to be in. Boom, boom, boom. And then obviously you change targets and you have to do it all over again. But, that's, I think, a better way to go about it than, obviously it's been proven in multiple studies in not just our sport, but in all sports and all mental capacities where you have to have that positive reinforcement or positive thought before you do it to hit the spot or hit the goal that you're trying to do.
Right.
So, but yeah. Glennie, go into maybe some 3D.
Yeah.
Because you're the...
Yeah. So what I do for 3D is I'll kind of get in the range. I'll kind of walk the whole range that we're shooting on. I kind of want to see what the range is going to be like. I want to see if it's going to be a hard range, medium range, light range, because I need to know kind of what I need to be at by the end of the day. So you kind of have a rough idea. So, all right, today's going to be probably a 16 up round is going to be the high. So I want to try to be within a couple at worst case because I want to make the next day not as tough on myself to try to be on the top 5 for the leaderboard. And then what I do is I'll actually go find the furthest target we have on that range, and I'll go to that stake as we're waiting, and I'll ingrain in my head, all right, because usually we will always have a couple 50s, but I'll find the one that I know for a fact, all right, that's a 50-yard target. I'll get up to that target, and I'll just keep looking at it just to kind of see like the vision of it kind of deal, kind of get in my head, all right, that's what 50 is today, just to kind of get myself set. That's my kind of like my rangefinder for my eyes kind of deal. It's like, all right, that's what 50 looks like today. And then what I'll do is I'll get to my stake and kind of correspond to what I was seeing at the other 50-yarder, kind of get a rough idea. All right, this is definitely closer than 50. I can kind of have an idea. All right, I'm in the 40s, I'm in the 30s, kind of get me a rough idea of what I need to kind of look at. And then for the unknown, the biggest thing for me is I listen to for bow speeds. So if I'm like the first, second, or third guy or fourth, I'm hoping I'm either the second or third because I can kind of listen to right off the bat to kind of get the speed in my mind. I like listening for it. It's definitely a game. The unknown's definitely a game.
That is crazy.
With listening to the speed, do you do that every target,
Yes.
or do you?
Yeah, I listen to every target.
Would you focus? Okay. Would you focus more on that if you're like tricked up, or?
Yeah,
if you have a tricky target.
Yep, especially like a longer one. I really want to listen to longer ones just so that I know. All right, because after you shoot a few rounds through the year, you know what 50 sounds like. And if I get a target and it's getting further out there, I'll be like, all right, that's definitely 50. Or it's like you just can kind of listen to know, all right, that's my 50, that's a 45, that's a 40. You just have a really good like 5-yard increment from here in the bow speeds.
Yeah. And most of you guys are at the same speed, so that's why you focus on it, right?
Most guys are between 290, 295 usually. So you really get in tone to what bows sound like at the distances kind of deal. And then another thing, first thing I do when I get to a target, especially when we get shooting, is I'll look where the arrow holes are. If I see a pile of holes low or high, it's kind of telling you, all right, guys are seeing this short, these guys are seeing this far. So it kind of gives me in a rough ballpark. If you see a pile of arrow holes low, it's probably going to be a upper 40 to 50-yard target. If you see a pile of arrow holes in the back, that's not 50 yards because guys are blowing off the top. So it's kind of giving me a rough idea.
Yeah, because I obviously know you and know how you play the game of uppers by judging and then adding a little bit. Do some of those targets that, let's say you have high holes, everybody's overjudging it, do you add less on some of those targets?
Usually I add less. Yep, usually.
Just like maybe 1 yard instead of the 2 yards?
Yeah, I noticed too.
Or do you maybe not add any?
Yeah, usually I don't add any, but I've noticed too, like Jimmy says he has his bow maybe a little bit high. Sometimes in 3D I don't mind having mine maybe a half inch to inch high, just a little bit, just so I don't have to give as much yardage. Can you just
Like on your marks?
Yes.
That's what you're saying. Okay,
Yep.
so like your 20-yard, anything on your sight tape, you're always hitting kind of
just a smidge
top
high.
X.
Yep, top X. Just so that I don't have to give as much yardage too. So it just makes me feel a little bit more confident with the numbers doing that. And it's just like Jimmy, if I miss, it's usually low. So I want to make it so that I still have a chance having that little. It's not much, maybe a half-inch hot. I'm shooting at on a target kind of deal. And then I usually too, I've noticed from my process too, if I get up to a target and I think it's 50, that's the only time I'll go for a lower. Usually is if I think it's 50, I'm putting 50 on the lower, because worst case, usually at least ASA, we don't go past 50. If we do, it's maybe 50 and a half. At that point, if I see a lot,
Still hit, probably.
if anything, if I see it's really like a lot of low arrow holes, I'll give it 50 and a half, because worst case, I go above it. It's like I don't need those ones, but you're giving your chance aiming at those ones, putting 50 on the lower kind of deal.
Yeah.
Yep.
And do you aim better at the lowers than you would the uppers?
Yeah.
Even though you do an upper game?
Yeah, I do. Just because when I did know, that's all I shot was lowers usually. Gotcha. That's what I grew up shooting, was at the lowers. So that's the one thing for my process is when I draw back, I really got to find a spot to aim at to make sure I'm breaking where I need to break to hit that upper kind of deal, being I'm not aiming at it kind of deal. So like for me, honestly, I love when guys hit it center IBO, because like, all right, perfect. You gave me a nice spot to aim at kind of deal. I can aim right at your arrow and I can go right at it kind of deal.
Yeah, you aim just to the side of it and just have a really good left and right mark, essentially.
Yeah, which in the unknown, that happens a lot. A lot of guys are just playing safe, hitting center 10s, because that's the game unknown is. Don't shoot 8s, just pick a few away. And that's what, when I walk the range too, usually you'll find 4 or 5 targets that are under 40 yards, and I kind of tell myself, all right, those are the ones I'm going to be a little bit more aggressive at. I'm going to maybe aim more precise at those ones, because you just got to hit between an 8 to 16 up round usually a day, and you're right in the hunt every time.
So, like you were saying about the 50-yarders or maybe even the short ones that you notice when you get to the range, you're looking at them and say, okay, this one's definitely like the longest one on the course, so I'm going to see that target and visualize it more. With that being said, do you notice like certain targets that they always use at those distances, or is it just different targets most times?
Usually it varies. Usually, kind of deal.
Like a turkey or a coyote.
Yeah.
Like, do they make those hard, like really hard ones a lot of times, or do they put some easier
turkey?
ones?
But no, honestly, you know what? The one they usually do a lot is the hyena. For whatever reason, they put the hyena
really?
for 50 yards like multiple times. So that one, it's like, and it's.
I think that one. I think the last year I judged that came in maybe. That was one of the hardest ones to judge.
Yeah.
And maybe because it's so tall, and that's why they do it, because they know it's a tricky. I don't know how you feel.
I usually always
like
underjudge it usually. So I always have to give that some yardage anyway. But I usually, for a reason, they always put that one at 50, it seems like. So
at least it's a good one to aim
at.
at.
I love that one.
Like if you have a good number, like it's a good one to aim
at. I like that one because the dot too. They have a dot almost center IBO too. So I hit that one actually a lot this year. It's just it's a really, if I have a spot to aim, it definitely helps. Just being I'm not aiming at the 12 most of the time. I aim at center kind of deal.
The close targets, do you notice any of those that they use a good amount of time?
Not usually. It kind of varies a lot at times. Sometimes, like we had a mule deer one time at 24 yards. It's like, why are you putting a mule deer at that close? It's like, that's one of our bigger targets kind of deal. And then they'll put the.
How do you guys feel about?
Did you hit it?
Because like
no,
in the known, we don't really care for. Oh, you did.
No, that was the one at Benny. If I would have hit that, I would have made the shoot down. So that kind of that was my second to last target. So that kind of, I still remember that one pretty bad.
Yeah, but like, would you guys rather not have those targets, or is it tricky enough sometimes that it messes you up?
I personally wish we didn't, because usually everyone hits that, so it's like kind of throwing the target away. It's like I don't like giving gimmies. I would rather have it in the mid-30s, just because a mid-31, those aren't gimmies still in our class, because they can make those still pretty tricky kind of deal, whether they
positioning of the target.
Yes, or they might put a couple in a row and you're just like, no way they're doing it again. Or they'll put a bomb out there and then put that one. That one looks like it's really in your face. So that's the one thing with the unknown is they could really play mind games with you, where they could put 250s right back to back and your kind of thing is like, no, they didn't do that. They didn't just give us 250s. Or they'll give you 2 long ones and they put a short one up there, and even if it's mid-30s, you might think it's like 20s just because you just shot 2 bombs. It's just a game of just trying to trick you kind of deal.
Yeah. And what was I just going to say now? I had a thought. With the targets, there most of the time, like we were saying, that the short ones kind of, you're throwing it away, so you're having a 39 course target course or event versus having all 40. So I do like, that's why I'm glad that they changed that in the known. I feel like at least this last year, we never had anything that short, like under 30,
Yeah, there's
35 even.
That one
We
year
had-
we were having stuff under 10 yards, and those
We had
ones
one
really
that was
drove me
under
nuts.
30.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was that, Jimmy?
We had one under 30.
Okay.
But I
so
like
another-
when we had the 4-yarder or like the
You
3-yarder.
liked it? I didn't like it. It was just
So many people missed it.
Yeah, I don't know. You shouldn't miss.
You know how many
that. Like,
8s were shot on that like 3-yarder on the known pro range? A lot.
Which that surprised me because there's some field shooters in that, and they should kind of know what their mark is, or they got marks on their phone
Yeah.
they're using. Kind of, it's like I don't know
Yeah.
how you miss that.
Yeah, but I've never had marks on my phone that gives me an accurate 3-yarder. Like I just
Yeah.
know from reading it needs to be around this.
Yeah.
I feel
yardage,
like with
you
the
know.
size of a 12, if you are close on your 3, 4, 5 yarders,
You're gonna hit
then
it.
you're gonna hit that 12.
Yeah.
Honestly,
Like,
I
as
think
long as
I
you
was.
make a good shot.
I want to say it was Perkins, but I could be wrong. But like he didn't have a mark and he didn't know what to really. Well, no, he would have known what to do. I don't know who it was, but they just did it basically like instinctively. Like they went off their anchor and like just looked down the arrow and like, yeah, that looks good, and he hit it. Yeah, that's cool.
So one thing I was gonna say, Glenn, and I feel like this is just even in all the 3D courses right now. I feel like ASA, they've made it harder and trickier for probably your division more than, well, I think trickier for judging, but harder for all of us to hit the 12s by quartering away. I mean, it's not steep quarter away, but they have angled the targets towards or away from you, which I think has made the courses harder because some of the 12s, if you miss left, there's a good chance you're probably just going to hit an 8 because it's quartered away, and that's just what's going to happen. Or if you're aiming at something higher than if you miss right, then you might have that, or whatever the orientation is. They've made it harder by doing that, and I think that's what's helped make the courses a little bit more fun because you have to think about that as another step and be like, do I really want to go for this? Like that arrow's really good right there.
Yep.
I know he's an 8, so if I aim just to the left, like I'm good. You know, as long as you have the confidence to do that. I think that's changed how people shoot these targets.
That's
as well.
my big thing when I go up for the unknown. It's like I need to tell myself, am I being aggressive or am I being just a layup on this one? Because it's like if I don't need it, let's be a little bit of a layup, maybe get a chance at it. But the unknown is just don't get an 8. If you could stay at 10, you'll stay afloat the whole time. You will pick some away, throw around, and that's the one thing too. Is like if I tell myself I need to hit these 5, usually you'll hit a couple of those, and then you will. I don't say luck in, but you'll hit a couple long ones too. So it's the big thing. Don't be too aggressive at it. The only day you need to be aggressive is maybe the second day when you get to the final 10 targets. If you're needing some, that's when you get a little more aggressive at it. And that's where, for me wise, if I have to get aggressive, I start either giving it a little bit more number to get up into the 12, aiming at the center, or I'll start going at the lower. Which hopefully I don't need to do that. Hopefully I played a smart game the last day and a half to make it so I could just pick away at them still.
Yeah, I feel like the main thing said at ASAs or any 3D event, because it's a 2-day event, and you can lose it on the first day.
Yes,
for sure.
Especially in the unknown, I've noticed that.
Yeah, you can't win it on the first day, but you for sure can lose it on the first day.
Curtis won it on the first day in Metropolis.
Oh, stop! It's because they canceled. But anyways.
Oh yeah, like last year,
mostly true.
For us for the classic, like Goza shot like a 26 up, 24 up round, like something crazy, and he had a huge lead, and he didn't win the tournament because like you said, it's not off of one day; it's a 2-day tournament.
Are you talking about Coleman last year?
Yep, the last year.
Yeah, because he ended up taking second or third. Second.
Yep.
You were third.
Yep.
So yeah, you never know. Even what's his last name? Atkins.
Nate Atkins. Yeah, he shot incredible the second day.
Yeah. Yep. So you can definitely tank it on the first day if you're going too aggressive.
Yep.
So that's even in our division. I think if you have to hit so many. That's why I feel like you were saying, you go walk the course. Jimmy, I know you walk the course. I've seen you do it. I've done it and tried to see if it made a difference. But to me, because we have to hit so many, I don't think it's much of a surprise to me because I'm range finding it.
Right.
It'd be different if I would want to lessen my surprises by going walking if I had to judge it. That's how I look at it. But I know that I have to hit them, and they're all, you're capable of hitting them at any distance anyways. That's the confidence I guess you should have, at least.
Right.
I don't walk the course for strategy or anything. I just walk so I can talk to people.
But you probably walk it to
You're probably looking at targets.
I know
when
you
you're
said
walking. Yeah.
I know you said to us like, oh, it's going to be like a easier day today. Like, because
It'll give me a
average
baseline
shot.
score.
Yeah.
I'll be like, last year I'd be like 30 up would be insane on this course
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I feel like in the known it's a little different. I don't see a lot of guys walking up and down.
No.
But when I shot the unknown, everybody.
Oh, yeah.
If you didn't walk down, you're kind of.
Oh, you're
That's not smart.
no.
Like,
I was
just
saying,
go
it
and-
helps me so much walking. Like I said, if
Yeah.
I can find that 50-yarder off the bat and just get that ingrained, all right, that's what 50 looks like today. At least on this course, it just sets your brain kind of what numbers are looking like, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Like Jimmy said for the known too, I used when I shot known, I did the same thing. It's like playing a game with it. Every 5 you have to tell yourself I need to hit 4 out of the 5. You kind of got to do that with known. Unknown's totally opposite. You just got to pick away. Just be smart and just pick a couple away throughout the round.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, you don't have to hit 15
No, nope.
12s to make it.
No, if
really. I mean, you have to hit more than that in ours, but because we obviously know the distance,
Yep.
it's different just because of that. But yeah, if you hit 10 to 15, I mean, you're always in it. Oh, there you go. Any other process things that you maybe do different at either 3D spots, whatever it is?
For me, process-wise, probably no. I make sure I'm pulling really hard in the back wall. That's a big thing for me. Is if I get weak, I get low right arrows usually. If I get weak on it, so I make sure I'm just pulling really hard. I know for 3D, I really gotta make sure I'm aiming at a certain spot. Like paper-wise, I feel like I can let it float a little bit more, just knowing it's this center yellow kind of deal. Where 3D, I really gotta make sure I'm finding that spot, because the way I'm doing it, if I don't, I'll get left and right to the 12, and that can get very aggravating. Where your height's perfect and you miss it right or left, it's like I did everything right, just my shot wasn't right because I didn't aim precise enough, and that stings a little bit. Just especially in mine, it's like if you get the yardage right, you need to hit that. Then you can't give up. It's like you only per round might get maybe a half dozen absolutely perfect numbers. Like those ones you need to hit, because if you hit those, that's 6 12s, that's 12 up, and if you're right there at that point. So it's for 3D.
That's why I think in your division with the unknown, if you do have a good shot and you capitalize on those half dozen, let's say, that's huge, because 6 is already halfway there of what you really need for the shoot off, or even to be like at the top.
Right.
Like it depends on the tournament, but sometimes that can, if you hit 12s, you're up there in top sometimes. I mean, there's high scores all the time, but it can go from really high the one tournament to the next tournament being like, dang, that's way different.
Right.
And that's just because of the setups of the courses and terrain and things like that are different. But all right. So really, I think that's all the process and all the tuning that I think we would ever do, or what we do. So anything else you guys want to talk about?
I'm going to go
close
group to my bow.
Yep. What was that, Jimmy?
I need to. It's too cold out to get ready for Foley.
I know.
It's too much snow.
I've been just playing at 20 yards on my bow lately, and next week is when I'll start going to 40 yards, playing around with it and just seeing how it's shooting, and kind of get ready, have a kind of a sleep tape when I get down there, and really fine tune it the Wednesday we get down there.
Yeah. I've been still messing around my indoor bow because it was changing my stabilizer. So hopefully I'll set up my 3D bow here soon, either at the end of this week or beginning of next, and get things going with that. And if I like the stabilizer where it's at, I might keep it on my 3D bow too. Try that there.
Nice.
See what distance what it does too, because obviously it's going to change there. But all right, I think that's good. I think it was a good conversation we had.
Yep.
If you're watching on YouTube and you're this far in the video, comment "Happy Birthday, Talia," because it's her birthday tomorrow, and I want to see who all made it an hour and 30 minutes in.
Nice.
There we go.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, and honestly too, just put any questions. We always like the input, so we can think of new ideas to talk about and see if we can make anybody change what they're doing and help them.
Yep.
hopefully not
Yeah.
make them worse. That's
Yep.
my goal, is not to
That's-
make anybody worse.
Yep.
That's why I don't talk that much.
Oh, stop. But all right, guys, thanks for watching or listening, whatever you're doing. Please like and subscribe. It does help us feel like we are doing something good for the community. So thank you again. We'll see you soon. Talk to you soon. See you later.
See ya.
Goodbye.
Bye.